His satellite was quiet. Too quiet. G1 sat in the small communication room of Station 7, staring at the readings on her screen. She was a 24-year-old biologist from Earth, and she had come to this distant corner of space to do what she loved most: study life. But right now, she was studying the wrong thing. She was studying the silence, and the silence was studying her. Back. Her team had spread out across the satellite to collect samples. Dr. Teo worked in the biology lab on level 2. Minsu and Nari were checking the water systems below. G1 was supposed to monitor everything from here. Make sure everyone stayed safe. Make sure nothing went wrong. Something was going wrong. The radio crackled with static. G1 turned up the volume. Nothing. Just empty noise. She tried calling out. Level 2, do you copy? Silence. Minsu, Nari, respond please. More silence. G1 stood up. Her heart began to beat faster. She was a woman who had trained in the military before becoming a scientist. She knew what silence meant. It meant someone wanted you to not know something. She moved to the window and looked out into space. The stars were beautiful as always, cold and distant and peaceful, but peace was ending. That was when she saw them. 3 massive ships appeared above the satellite, their shapes wrong and terrible. These were not Earth ships. These were something else. Something that looked almost like insects, if insects could fly through space and had weapons that glowed with blue light. G1's training took over. She ran to the emergency button and pressed it. Alarms screamed through the satellite. Then they stopped. Someone had turned them off. Someone who was not on her team. The lights went red. Emergency lighting, which meant someone had cut the main power. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps. More than one set, coming up the stairs toward her position. G1 looked around the room quickly. The window could not be broken from the inside. The door was the only way out. But if she went through that door, she would meet whoever was coming up the stairs. She grabbed a metal rod from the emergency kit. It was not much of a weapon, but it was something. The door opened. The creature that stood in the doorway was tall. Very tall. 8 feet at least, with a body that looked like it was made of dark metal but was actually alive. Its skin shined under the red emergency lights. It had too many legs. It had a head that was more like a bug's head than a face. Its eyes were black and empty and looked at her like she was food. G1 had never seen anything like it before. Human, the creature said. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. You will come with me. G1 did not come with it. Instead, she threw the metal rod at it. The creature did not even move. The rod passed over its head and hit the wall behind it. The creature made a sound. Maybe it was laughing. 2 more creatures, just like the first one, came into the room. One grabbed each of G1's arms. She fought. She was strong, and she had been trained in fighting, but these creatures were stronger, much stronger. They pulled her toward the door. She saw her team as they dragged her down the hallway. Dr. Teo was on the ground, not moving. Minsu was in a cage. Nari was crying. There were more creatures, dozens of them, moving through the satellite with purpose. They were taking them. They were taking all of them. The journey to the ship was fast. The creatures did not care if she could walk or not. They mostly carried her, dragging her across metal floors and through cold hallways that smelled like something burned. The ship was cold too. Everything was cold and hard and wrong. They threw her into a cell with other people. Some were from her team. Most were not. Some looked like humans from other Earth bases. Some looked like they had been here longer, their faces pale and thin. What happened? G1 asked Minsu, who sat in the corner. Traders, Minsu said quietly. Velthar traders. They come and take people. They sell us. Sell us? To who? To anyone. We are resources to them. Labor, entertainment, food for some. G1 felt cold inside, but not because of the temperature. For 3 days, they sat in that cell. Other prisoners came and went. Some were taken away and never came back. The food was terrible. The water was worse. No one talked very much. The hope had been taken out of them. On the 4th day, the doors opened and several of the creatures came in with devices that looked like guns but probably were not. They began scanning each person, pointing the devices at them like they were taking their picture. When they scanned G1, something went wrong. The device made a strange noise. Then it made another noise. The creatures looked at each other. One of them spoke in their grinding language, and the others made sounds that might have been argument. The creature pointed the device at her again. The same strange noise. It looked frustrated. Then one of the creatures did something to her arm. It was a band. Metal. With a screen that showed information. A tag. The creature stepped back and looked at the tag, then looked at her, then looked at the tag again. All the creatures were looking at her now. The band showed words. Not words that Ji-won could read from where she was, but she would learn what they said soon enough. 2 words. Just 2 words glowing red against the black screen. Apex predator. The creatures made more grinding noises. Some of them stepped away from her. One of them spoke into something it held, and a voice answered back, not in words Ji-won understood, but in the grinding language of the Velthar. The lead creature looked at her for a long time. Then it pointed one of its too many legs at her and made a decision. This one, it said in slow English, goes to the arena. The master will see what she is. But the corruption in the data, another creature said. We do not know what she is. Exactly, said the first creature. We do not know. So we will find out. They took Ji-won from the cell. They took her alone away from Minsu and the others. Down more cold hallways, through more doors. Down into a place that was much deeper than any place she had been before. Behind those doors she could hear sounds. Roaring sounds. Screaming sounds. The sounds of battle and blood and fear. The creatures put her in another cell. This one was smaller. This one was different. And outside the cell she could see something terrible. She could see the arena. She could see where she was going to die. She sat down on the cold metal floor and tried to think. She tried to use her training and her mind to figure a way out. But in that moment, sitting alone in that cell, knowing that her team was probably taken somewhere else, knowing that she was going to be thrown into a place where things fought to the death, she could not find a way out. She could only find the memory of her training. The memory of her time learning to fight. The memory of her body and her mind working as one. And she held on to that memory like it was a lifeline. Because if she was going to die in an arena, she was not going to die begging. She was going to die fighting. The Velthar had taken someone they thought was nothing, someone small and weak and easy to kill, but that tag on her arm had been wrong about something. It had been wrong about her being a predator. But it had been right about one thing. She was Apex, and she was about to show them what that meant. The gate opened and light flooded in. Ji-won had been in darkness for so long that the light felt like a weapon. It burned her eyes and made them water. She covered her face with her hand and moved forward because she had no choice. The creatures had told her to walk into the light, and if she did not walk, they would push her. She walked. As her eyes adjusted, she began to see. First, she saw the ground beneath her feet. It was rough and red and looked like stone. Then she saw the walls. They were high and curved like a bowl. Then she heard the sound. Thousands of sounds. Thousands of voices. Thousands of creatures making noise together. She was in the arena. Ji-won blinked and looked up. Above her, in seats that rose high into the darkness, there were more creatures than she could count. They all looked like the ones who had taken her. Velthar, 8 feet tall, made of dark shining skin that looked like metal. Too many legs. Heads that were more bug than face. They were everywhere. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. And they were all looking at her. The light got brighter. Brighter than before. So bright that Ji-won had to shield her eyes again. When she looked back up, she saw the big screen. The screen was high above the arena and it was enormous. Larger than the biggest building she had ever seen. On that screen, her face appeared, and next to her face, words appeared in letters that glowed red. Ji-won could read them now. 2 words, frozen in red light for every Velthar in the arena to see. Apex predator. The sound changed. The noise of thousands of voices turned into confusion. The sound of chaos. The grinding voices of the Velthar all talking at once, all saying the same things, all asking the same questions. Ji-won watched as some of the creatures stood up. Others leaned back in their seats like they were shocked or afraid or both. An officer, a Velthar who seemed more important than the others, stood up in a special box high above. His skin was darker than the others, almost black, and it had marks on it, like scars or maybe like tattoos. His voice was deeper and it went through the arena with magic somehow. Everyone heard him. Everyone listened. Apex predator, the officer said. His voice made the walls shake. From the human world. More noise from the crowd. The Velthar were excited and afraid at the same time. Ji-won could see them pointing at her. Some of them were making bets. Some of them were writing on the screens in front of their seats. Down on the ground near where Jiwon was standing, smaller Velthar with weapons moved closer to her. They all had guns, which meant she was surrounded by them. "What is Apex Predator?" she asked the nearest one. The creature looked at her with its black empty eyes. "You do not know?" "I do not know anything," Jiwon said. "I was captured from my home. I do not know what that word means to your people." The creature made a sound that might have been a laugh. Apex Predator is legend. In our oldest stories, they are the beings at the top of the hunt. The hunters that hunt other hunters. The predators that fear nothing. We have not seen an apex predator in 1,000 years. "It is an error," Jiwon said quickly. "The machine that reads the information was broken. I am just a human. Just a biologist," but the creature was not listening anymore. It was looking at the big screen, where other information was being shown now. Information about previous apex predators. Pictures of massive creatures with teeth and claws and power. Creatures that looked nothing like her. "Perhaps," the guard said slowly. "That is why you are here. To show us what you are." Before Jiwon could respond, the ground began to move. On the far side of the arena, a gate was opening. A gate larger than the one she had come through. Larger than any gate she had ever seen. And something was coming through it. The Krell was beautiful and terrible. It was 3 times her height, maybe more. Its skin was a deep green color with patterns on it that seemed to shift and change in the light. It had a long tail that moved like a whip, thick and strong with a point at the end that looked like a spear. It had claws on its feet that were each as long as Jiwon's fingers. Its teeth were like daggers, and there were so many of them. Its eyes were yellow, and they were intelligent. This was not a stupid beast. This was a hunting machine. The Krell looked at Jiwon and it roared. The sound was loud enough to knock Jiwon back a step. The Velthar in the crowd roared back, cheering and screaming and making sounds of joy and excitement. "The Krell," the guard told her, "has killed 200 opponents. It has never lost a fight. It hunts for the Velthar warlords. It is the strongest beast in the arena." Jiwon said nothing. She was thinking. She was watching the Krell. She was noticing how it moved. She was noticing how it balanced. She was noticing the scars on its body from previous fights. She was learning it. Because even though she did not have a plan, and even though she was terrified, her human mind was working. The mind that had been trained to find patterns. The mind that had been taught to see weaknesses. The mind that had evolved on a world where her ancestors hunted creatures larger and stronger than themselves. The metal band on her arm grew hot. Jiwon looked down at it. New words were appearing on the screen now. "Match begins in 10 seconds. She looked back at the Krell. The creature was crouching now, getting ready to run. Getting ready to hunt. The big screen showed numbers going down. 10, 9, 8. Jiwon thought of her team. She thought of Minsu sitting in that cell. She thought of Nari crying. She thought of all the creatures who were probably trapped in cells somewhere, waiting to be brought into this arena. 7, 6, 5. She thought of Earth. She thought of her parents who did not know what had happened to her. She thought of her training. She thought of what it meant to be human. 4, 3, 2. The Krell roared again. 1. The Krell charged, and Jiwon did not run. Instead, she studied the ground around her. She studied the pillars that held up the walls. She studied the weapons and tools that were scattered across the arena from previous fights. She studied the angles and the distances. She studied it all, and she understood. The Velthar thought she was something legendary. They thought she was a creature of power and mystery. They thought they were about to watch her die, but they did not understand what apex predator really meant. They did not understand that on her world, in the deep past, humans had hunted creatures bigger than the Krell, that humans had used intelligence and tools and strategy to bring down beasts that were stronger and faster and more dangerous. The Velthar did not understand that being an apex predator was not about having the biggest teeth or the strongest claws. It was about being smarter than everything else. And as the Krell came at her with teeth and claws and power, Jiwon stepped to the side, grabbed a fallen weapon from a previous fight, and began to show the arena exactly what a human apex predator could do. The fight was beginning, and the Velthar had no idea what they had just released into their arena. They were about to find out. One moment the creature was on one side of the arena, and the next moment it was directly in front of Jiwan, its claws reaching out to tear her apart. But Jiwan had already moved. She had been watching the creature's muscles, watching how they tightened before it jumped. She had learned in that fraction of a second how the Krell attacked. She dove to the left, and the creature's claws passed inches from her body. She felt the heat of the creature. She felt the power in the air where it moved. It was like standing next to a storm. The Krell landed and turned. It was faster than anything Jiwan had ever seen. Faster than she was, but not faster than she could think. Not faster than she could plan. She ran toward the center of the arena, toward the pillars that held up the structure. The Krell followed. It always followed. A predator always chases. Jiwan could hear the Velthar crowd roaring. She could not tell if they were cheering for her or for the Krell. Maybe both. Maybe it did not matter. The first pillar came up fast. Jiwan ran around it and the Krell came behind her. But the creature was too fast. It caught up. It swiped at her with one of its massive claws and the claw hit the pillar instead. The sound was like thunder. Sparks flew from the metal. But the pillar held. The Krell pulled its claw away and looked at its hand. Its claw was broken. Just a little, but broken. Jiwan could see it notice this. Could see something like thought cross the creature's face. She used that moment. She ran to the edge of the arena where some old weapons lay from previous fights. A staff, a knife. A weapon that looked like it was made to throw. She grabbed the knife. The Krell was coming again. Always coming. Always hunting. Jiwan threw the knife. The Krell knocked it away with one claw, but it was close. Very close. It passed near the creature's head. The Velthar crowd went crazy. This was not what they expected. A human was actually fighting back. Not just dying, fighting. Come on, Jiwan said quietly. She was not talking to the Krell. She was talking to herself. Come on. Show me what I need to see. The Krell attacked again and again. Each time Jiwan learned something new. She learned that the creature's left side was slower than the right side. Maybe an old injury. Maybe just the way it was built. She learned that when the Krell got angry, it became less careful. It swung harder but less smart. She learned that it was strong, but it was not strategic. It was a weapon designed to hunt and kill, but it was not designed to think. And humans were designed to think. 5 minutes passed. Then 10, then 15. Jiwan was bleeding. Her arm was cut where the Krell's claw had gotten too close. Her leg was bruised from a tail strike. Her chest hurt from where the creature had knocked her into the ground. But she was still moving. Still learning. Still fighting. The Krell was getting tired. Not very tired, but Jiwan could see it. The creature's attacks were coming slower. Its breathing was heavy. Endurance was a human thing. Humans could run and run and run. Humans could keep going when other creatures wanted to stop. The Krell did not know how to fight something that would not wear out. Now, Jiwan said, now I know. She ran toward the area of the arena where the ground had been damaged by previous fights. There was a depression in the stone, a weak place. She had noticed it in the first seconds when she came into the arena. She had been waiting to use it. The Krell came after her. Of course it did. Jiwan ran faster, her legs pushing hard, pushing everything she had into speed. The Krell was faster, but it was not smarter. When she suddenly stopped and jumped to the side, the Krell could not stop fast enough. The creature's powerful hind legs hit the weak spot in the ground, and the stone cracked. The Krell tried to keep going, but one of its legs went down into the crack. The creature roared in pain and fury. It was stuck just for a moment. Just for a fraction of a second. It was enough. Jiwan grabbed a fallen arena weapon from the previous fights. It was a spear, heavy and sharp. She ran at the Krell with all her strength and all her knowledge and all her human will to survive. She drove the spear into the joint at the Krell's shoulder, where she had seen it move earlier, where she had learned that the scales were thinner, where she had understood there was weakness hiding inside all that power. The Krell screamed. It was not a roar. It was a scream, like a living thing that suddenly understood it could die. The creature pulled its leg out of the crack with a terrible sound. It spun around, trying to reach her, but the wound in its shoulder was deep. Very deep. Jiwan stepped back. She was breathing hard. Her whole body was shaking. She was hurt and tired and scared. But she was alive. The Krell stood there for a moment. It looked at her with those yellow eyes. Jiwan saw the moment when the creature understood. The moment when the creature knew that it was going to lose. The Krell roared one more time, a sound full of pain and rage. Then it charged, but it was slower now. Much slower. The injury was too much. G1 stepped to the side and watched the creature run past her. The Krell ran directly into one of the stone pillars and fell to the ground. It tried to stand. Its legs shook. It tried again. Then it stopped trying. The Krell lay on the ground, breathing but not moving anymore. Not able to move anymore. The creature had been defeated. The arena went silent. Then the Velthar crowd made a sound like nothing G1 had ever heard before. It was not a cheer exactly. It was something deeper and more primal than that. It was the sound of an entire species realizing something that they had not known before. The sound of shock. The sound of understanding. G1 stood in the center of the arena, covered in blood and sweat, holding the spear. She was bleeding from several places. Her muscles screamed with pain. She could barely breathe, but she was standing, and the Krell was not. The Velthar guards came down onto the arena floor. G1 thought they were going to take her back to the cell, but instead they stopped at a distance from her. They looked at her like they had never seen a human before. Maybe they had not really. Not like this. Above them, on the big screen, new words appeared in letters even brighter than before. Apex Predator wins. The crowd roared again. And this time there was no confusion in the sound. It was pure amazement, pure shock. G1 lowered the spear and looked up at the thousands of Velthar faces looking down at her. She could see officers pointing at her. She could see them in discussion. She could see them making decisions about what came next. She did not know what would happen now. But as she stood there in that arena, covered in blood and victory, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had shown them what humans were capable of, and they would never see humans the same way again. Or maybe it was months. In the arena, in the cells, in the darkness between fights, time became something that did not matter very much. What mattered was the next fight. Then the next. Then the next. G1 had fought 23 times now. 23 matches. 23 opponents. 23 victories. After the first fight with the Krell, the Velthar stopped wondering what she was. They accepted that she was exactly what her tag said, an apex predator, a legend, something that had not been seen in 1,000 years, and they wanted to see her fight. Each time she went into the arena, there were more Velthar in the stands. First there were 10,000, then 20,000, then they had to stop counting because the arena was completely full. Officers came from other stations in the Velthar Empire. Scientists came to study her. Generals came to understand her, and G1 kept winning. The second fight was against a Gatharian, a creature with 4 arms and armor that looked like metal, but was actually its own skin. The Gatharian had a reputation for being unbeatable in hand-to-hand combat. G1 studied how it moved with all 4 arms at once. She learned that when it attacked with the right side, the left side was open. She won by using a rope to bind 2 of its arms while she attacked the other 2. The third fight was against a Silkarath hunter. This creature was fast, faster than the Krell, faster than anything with so much size should be able to move, but it was not strategic. It did not think. It only hunted. G1 defeated it by leading it into a trap that she designed using the pillars and the ground, then striking at the moment when the creature could not escape. One after another, opponents came. One after another, G1 defeated them, and with each victory the legend grew stronger. Velthar soldiers spoke about her in whispers. They said that she had been sent by the ancient powers to remind the Velthar that even they were not safe at the top of the galaxy. They said that she was not really human. They said that something else had come to their world wearing human skin. G1 heard these stories sometimes and she did not correct them, but she was not thinking about the legend. She was thinking about escape. She had started planning the moment she arrived in the arena. Every fight was information gathering. Every victory was a chance to learn more about the Velthar, their weapons, their security, their patterns. She memorized the guard rotation. She learned when the station was most busy and when it was quiet. She studied the exits. She mapped the hallways in her mind, and she made a friend. Dae-Young was a maintenance worker. He was 31 years old and had been captured 6 months before G1. He worked in the machine rooms, the places where the station kept its power and water and life support systems running. He was quiet and intelligent, and he was one of the few humans the Velthar left alone. G1 had seen him in the hallways once. He had seen her tag, the glowing words on her arm, apex predator. And he had understood something that no Velthar could understand. He understood that it was a mistake. That night, when the guards took Ji-won back to her cell, Dae-jung was there. He pretended to be fixing something, but really he was waiting. When the guards left, he came to her cell. "You are not an apex predator," he said quietly. Ji-won looked at him. "How do you know?" "Because I have seen real monsters," Dae-jung said. "And you do not look like one. You look like someone who is smart, someone who is fighting because she has to." Ji-won studied him for a moment. Then she told him everything. She told him about the satellite, about being captured, about the corrupted tag, about how she had used human knowledge to win her fights. Dae-jung listened to all of it. Then he said, "I can help you escape." "Escape?" Ji-won said. "There are thousands of Veltar. There are guards everywhere. There are weapons and sensors, and there are also systems," Dae-jung said. "And systems can be broken." From that moment on, they worked together. Dae-jung told Ji-won about the security systems, about the places where the cameras did not see, about the computer that controlled the doors and locks, about the power sources that kept everything running. Ji-won told Dae-jung about the guard patterns, about the times when only a few officers were watching, about the route to the docking bay that took the fewest guards. They made plans in whispers between fights. They gathered information bit by bit. They found other humans who wanted to escape, and they told them to be ready, to wait, to watch for the signal. Meanwhile, Ji-won kept fighting. She defeated a Zethnor, a massive creature made of solid muscle and rage. She defeated 3 Gatharian warriors in a match designed for her to fail. She defeated smaller opponents and larger opponents and faster opponents and stronger opponents. Each victory made the legend bigger, and each victory gave her more information, more understanding of the Velthar, more knowledge of their weaknesses. One day, Korvath came to her cell. Korvath was the arena master, the one who decided which fights happened and what prizes were given. He was massive even for a Velthar, his skin scarred from wars and battles in other times. "I have a proposal for you," Korvath said in his grinding voice. "We will have one final match. You will fight the Velthar champion, the warrior who has conquered star systems, the greatest fighter our empire has ever known. And if I win," Ji-won asked. "Then you will be free," Korvath said. "I will release you. You and any human you ask for. It will be a gesture from the Velthar Empire to show respect for your power." Ji-won did not believe this. She knew that the Velthar would never let her go if she won, but she also knew that this was the moment. The final match. The time when everyone would be paying attention. The time when she could make her move. "I will fight," she said. That night she told Dae-jung about the offer. About the final match. "This is it," Dae-jung said. "When the whole station is watching the fight, that is when I can move through the security systems. I can shut down doors. I can open locks. I can make a path to the docking bay." "You will need to be fast," Ji-won said. "The moment I start winning, the Velthar will notice something is wrong." "I know," Dae-jung said. "But I will be ready. You fight. You keep them focused on you. And I will free our people they did not touch." There was too much risk. But they both knew what was coming. The final match was scheduled for 3 days away. 3 days until everything would change. 3 days until they would either escape or die trying. Ji-won went back to her cell and waited. She stretched her muscles and prepared her mind. She thought about what was coming and what it meant. The Velthar had taken her from her world. They had put her in an arena to die. But she had learned from every fight. She had grown stronger with every victory. Now it was time to show them the cost of what they had done. Now it was time for the final fight. And after that, it was time to go home. Every Velthar on the station had come to the arena. Above the stands, massive ships from other Velthar worlds had arrived to watch. Even the officers were in the audience. Every screen in every building was broadcasting the fight. Security was light. Everyone was focused on one thing: seeing the apex predator fight the Velthar champion. Ji-won stood in the darkness of the preparation room, waiting for her turn to enter the arena. Her body was strong, stronger than it had been weeks ago when she first arrived. All the fighting, all the training had changed her. She was lean and hard and ready. The door opened and guards escorted her toward the arena floor. As she walked, she saw Dae-jung in one of the service tunnels. He was dressed as a maintenance worker, which he was, but today he carried no tools. Instead, he carried devices that would let him access the station's security systems. He nodded at her. Just a small motion, but it meant everything. The gate opened and G1 walked into the light. The crowd roared. They roared because they always roared when she appeared. But today there was something different about the sound. Today they were not cheering for a legend. They were cheering because they wanted to see if the legend could fall. On the screen above her, the words displayed, Apex Predator versus Champion Warrior. The other gate opened. The Velthar champion was smaller than G1 expected. Not small in absolute terms, but smaller than some of the other creatures she had fought. Maybe 7 feet tall instead of 8. But the creature moved with a kind of perfect power. Every muscle was controlled. Every movement had purpose. This was not a beast. This was a warrior. This was someone who had spent centuries learning how to kill. The Velthar crowd went wild. The champion looked at G1, and it made a gesture that might have been respect. Then it drew a weapon, a sword made of something that glowed with energy. This fight was going to be different than the others. This fight was going to be close, 10 seconds until the match began. G1 crouched and got ready. She could hear in her earpiece the device that Daejung had secretly given her, a beeping sound. Beep, 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 a countdown. Daejung was ready. He was waiting for the match to start. When the fight began, so would his escape plan. The arena master announced the beginning of the match, and then chaos. The champion moved like nothing G1 had ever seen. It was fast and strong and intelligent. Every move was designed to kill. The sword came at her with power and precision. G1 blocked it with a fallen weapon, but the force nearly knocked her down. The champion was stronger than anything she had fought before, but it was not stronger than her mind. She watched every move. She learned every pattern. The champion fought with formal technique, with discipline, with the knowledge of a creature that had been fighting for centuries. But it was predictable. Technique always was. G1 fought differently. She fought with chaos. She fought with intelligence that was not bound by tradition. She fought the way humans had fought thousands of years before, when they had to defeat creatures stronger than themselves. Beep, beep, beep. The sound in her earpiece continued. That was Daejung moving through the security systems, opening doors, shutting down sensors, creating a path. The champion struck hard and G1 ducked. She came up inside the creature's guard and struck at its chest. The champion twisted away. Too fast, it was adapting, learning from her. Above the arena, on the screens, G1 could see something happening. The screens were glitching. Information was appearing and disappearing. That was Daejung disrupting the communications. Down in the lower levels, humans were being released from their cells. The champion was pressing her now, pushing her back. For the first time in a fight, G1 was not sure if she could win. The creature was too skilled, too powerful, too experienced. But then she heard it, an alarm, not in her earpiece but throughout the station. A security alarm. Emergency protocols were activating. Doors were opening when they should not be opening. The systems were breaking. The champion heard it too. For just a fraction of a second, the creature's focus wavered. That was enough. G1 moved inside the creature's defense. She used a technique she had seen the champion use against another opponent, turned it around and struck at the creature's shoulder joint. The sword fell from the champion's hand. The arena fell into confusion. The crowd was no longer paying complete attention to the fight. Something else was happening. Something wrong. G1 seized the champion's arm and twisted. The creature roared, but it was a cry of pain and surprise, not anger. The warrior understood now that it had lost. An explosion rocked the station. Not a big explosion, but enough to shake the arena. Dust fell from the ceiling. The crowd began to panic. Down in her earpiece, Daejung's voice came through, tight and urgent. Now, go now. G1 grabbed the energy sword that the champion had dropped. She ran toward the edge of the arena, toward the barrier that usually kept people in the arena. The barrier was shut down now. She broke through it and kept running. Behind her, Velthar guards were trying to follow, but the chaos was too great. The crowd was trying to escape the arena. The guards were trying to figure out what was happening. Everything was breaking down. G1 ran through the halls toward the docking bay. She could see other humans now running in the same direction. Minsu, Nari, others she did not know. Daejung had done it. He had freed them. The docking bay was ahead. And there was a ship. A Velthar transport ship. Daejung must have sliced the controls to let them use it. They ran, faster than they had ever run. The guards were behind them, but they were too far away. The ship was opening its doors. Ji-won and Daejung and the other freed humans boarded the ship. "Hold on," Daejung shouted. The ship rose from the ground. Outside the window, Ji-won could see Velthar soldiers trying to stop them, but it was too late. The ship was already in the air, already heading toward the space beyond the station. In the control room, Daejung sent out a broadcast. A message in all the languages of the galaxy. A message to every species that listened. "This is a broadcast from the humans who were enslaved by the Velthar Empire. We have escaped. We are coming home. And we are telling everyone, the Velthar are not as powerful as you believe. Humans are not as weak as you thought. And if you threaten us again, you will learn what it means to face a species that refuses to die." Ji-won watched as they accelerated away from the station. Watched as the Velthar ships tried to follow but could not. Watched as the station grew smaller and smaller until it was just a point of light in the darkness of space. She looked at Daejung. He was smiling, but his hands were shaking. They were shaking because they had done the impossible. They had escaped a space station controlled by one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. "Where do we go now?" Naray asked. "Home," Ji-won said. "We go home to Earth and we tell them everything we learned." The ship jumped into hyperspace, and the Velthar station disappeared. Days later, on the planet Earth, military commanders received a message from a ship they had thought was lost. The message came from Ji-won and Daejung and the other escaped humans. The message described the Velthar, their weaknesses, their fears. Their technology. Recruitment began immediately. Young men and women from all over Earth lined up to join the military. They wanted to go into space. They wanted to protect their species. They wanted to prove that humans were apex predators. On 1,000 worlds in 1,000 alien cities, the message was heard. Humans were not prey. Humans were not servants. Humans had defeated the Velthar champion. Humans had shown their teeth. And the galaxy would never forget. The age of human meekness had ended. The age of the apex predator had begun, and it was only the beginning.